Hello, everyone. Marianne here at the Filling Station Recording Studio. It is episode 7. It is so great to be with you all again. We are having so much fun interviewing some really cool people here. People behind the scenes. You've probably seen them highlighted in the newsletter, or you have been here when they've done amazing events. But this is an opportunity for us to really deep dive into learning more about who our partners are, who our volunteers are, what makes this place hum, because there are so many people, so much magic behind the scenes. So today, you probably have seen it highlighted on page 7 in the Food for Thought newsletter. If you've not read it, I'd invite you to please go to the website and take a look at that. But page 7 in the Teaching Kitchen, we are highlighting Brenda Hall. And Brenda, my new friend, because I feel like I've known her forever. Everybody that we have here in the studio, I feel like I've known all my life. But Brenda is here to chat with us a little bit about how she found the filling station and why she serves. So, Brenda, welcome.
Thank you, Marianne. Glad to be here.
And she wore the right color, red.
Dress code.
That's right. If you're coming to the filling station, it's always red.
That's right. My favorite color.
Yes, I love it. It looks great on most everybody. So let's just dive right in and share with our audience, a little bit about you and where you're from and how you got to Eastern North Carolina.
All right. Well, you probably hear a little accent, but I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Grew up there. Lived there till I went off to college, and had a wonderful family, wonderful Christian family. And but Chattanooga's not where I wanted to be, so I went to college. I started out as an X-ray tech, and loved that. But I had a deeper passion to help other people, especially those going through hard times. So I found radiation oncology, and I went back to college for that. I know you go, what is that? You work in cancer centers and you actually treat cancer patients with radiation. So I did that. I loved it. It was my calling, and just kept progressing. And, at the end of my career, I was the corporate director for several cancer centers, which I love too, but it was a lot. And throughout that time, I had married initially, and that was a mistake. But
practice marriage, right?
It was practice. It was bad. But anyway, I got my son, and my son Ben, who's 27, who's now a pharmacist in oncology, by the way. And
wow,
he's following his mother's footsteps, and he loves it. It's his passion as well, and just so proud of him. And I was fortunate to meet the love of my life and my soulmate, John Hall. We've been married 19 years the end of this month.
Wow.
And we've just had a wonderful life together. And
where did y'all meet?
So we met in Fayetteville, where I worked. And he was a service manager and was coming to do work in our facility. We were doing some upgrades to our equipment. And that's how I met him. And I was freshly divorced, so I wasn't interested, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But eventually he wore me down after probably about a year of, asking me to lunch and that sort of thing. And, finally I did, and was like, wow, he can't be for real. And he was for real, and even better. So we've had a wonderful life together, and just we've made so many trips, so many memories, and we pack our life completely full, because I feel like we had so much to do that I didn't get done in the first part of my life.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like I'm making up, and he feels the same way. So we're always packing it in, very busy, and always giving back and
Yep.
make-
Finding time to give back to the community. How did you end up in New Bern?
So New Bern, we looked where we wanted to retire, and we looked all up and down the coast. I've been in North Carolina since 1987. I wasn't leaving, so we had to move here from Florida after 42 years to marry me.
Wow.
That was the price he had to pay. But anyway, he wouldn't do it any differently. So we looked and looked and looked for years, and then I just kept coming back to New Bern on paper and doing all the research about healthcare, cost of living, and having enough stuff, shopping, and that sort of thing. And so then we started coming out here, and we'd come out here and we'd bring our boat too, because we wanted to live on the water as well. And a few years later, we found our lot in River Bend, and then about that time, my mother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I said to my parents, we're going to be moving to New Bern. Why don't you move out there too, and we can help take care of my mom? And then my sister and her husband moved out here too. So we all co-located in New Bern. And we were the last to arrive because I was still working, and anyway, one thing led to another, and I was able to finally retire, and we all helped my mother. I helped my dad and my mother. My dad was the sole caregiver till the very end, and so we lost my mother last year, and so anyway, that's how we all ended up here.
Got it.
Never intend to leave. Love it here. It's a blessing here, and every day is just like a blessing.
So, I think back about how we got connected. I think it was through our husbands.
It was our husbands, yes. Your husband, my husband, who were in the radio club. They did the ham radio.
Ham radio,
training.
yeah.
And my husband's never met a stranger, Mr. Chatty Cathy. So he was talking to your husband, and somehow it came out that I had gone through Master Gardener training as well. And he said, "Oh, we have 400 tulips that need to be planted. Would she be interested?" So we did, and that's the beginning of
how we got
me
met.
coming down here, as well as my husband, who also comes with me and helps me extensively as well. And then we started talking, and I said, I love gardening. I have plenty to do on my own. I'm really more interested in cooking and helping people that don't know how to cook, how to take fresh ingredients and turn that into wonderful, nutritious, healthy, delicious meals. I'm much more interested in that. And you said, okay. And then one thing led to another. And since that time, done several lunches for different organizations down here, and the volunteers and the kids camps and those sort of things. But probably the more meaningful one to me is we call it Out of the Box. So it's the food box that's delivered on Tuesday that has all the fresh ingredients. And some people, maybe who don't know how to cook, get that box and go, well, I know how to make those potatoes, and I know how to do that squash, and then everything else in the box, they don't know what to do with it. So what I do is I pick up a box, I take it home. I usually make 3 samples, sometimes 4, of easy, nutritious, delicious meals, and make the recipes. I also give lots of other examples of how else they could use that food in their box. And I hope it makes a difference. I hope people are learning how to take those fresh ingredients and make them into wonderful meals that their family loves. And the reason that I got into, here a little bit of background here, the reason that cooking is so important to me, there's a multitude of reasons, but I learned from my mother that food is how you set a table, it's how it looks, it's the beginning of wonderful, memorable meals, and it's also the universal love language, because when you put love into food, it shows. And About 15 years ago, I was having all kind of health issues, a very stressful job, just my health was declining, but I was sick a lot. And come to find out, I had a gluten intolerance. So I can't have pasta and bread and anything that has wheat flour or rye
Mhm.
in it.
Mhm.
So I had to just like completely start over. Plus, I was like, if I don't get this myself together, I'm not going to be around,
Right. You won't be
to,
able to do all that wonderful
yeah,
travel with John and
exactly.
yeah.
Like I'm going to miss out on my golden years. So I really put a lot of effort. I started seeing a functional medicine doctor in addition to my regular doctor, but helped me to figure out so many
Get a
things and
baseline.
get a
Yeah.
baseline, figure out that was gluten intolerance. And I said, well, I don't know what that is, but just don't take my bread and pasta away from me. And
Right.
she said,
Right.
well, here's this book. I want you to read it. So
Yeah.
I did, and I was like, oh man, all my favorites. But, I called that the silver lining,
Yeah.
honestly, because what happened thereafter is I had to start cooking everything fresh. No, nothing that had all these chemicals and
Preservatives.
preservatives
Yeah.
and all that mess in there. I couldn't have that anymore. So everything had to be fresh. And what I found from doing that was, wow, I was missing out on the taste of food. It tastes so much better when it's fresh. And
And all the spices. Yeah.
so, yeah. So I really learned to spice it up with all kind of herbs and peppers
Mm-hmm.
and spices,
Mm-hmm.
and so you'll never eat bland food from me ever. It won't happen, or it didn't come from me.
Well, I will say the last time you were here, it was right before Easter, and
Yeah.
you had prepared some of the most delicious food I believe I have ever eaten. There was a great the box contained some beautiful grapes, and so you did a
Yes.
grape salad.
Yes.
And then we had potatoes in the box, and you did some really yummy potatoes that you had prepared in the oven with some Parmesan cheese, I believe we had in the box. And there was also a little crustless quiche,
Oh yeah.
and we had some bacon and some eggs, believe it or not, in the box because we
Yes.
have a retail donation partnership with Harris Teeter. And we do that through the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. So what we do is we commit to picking up from Harris Teeter twice a week. So we're able to add those wonderful items to the box. And you know, on page 7 of our newsletter, you can find all these incredible recipes. You can actually see the video of you talking about these recipes. So I really encourage y'all to check that out. But everything from, the kids camp to the New Bern Chamber of Commerce, when we did the midday mingle, you did the Valentine boxes. Oh, everybody just raved about those because they wanted to tour the facility, but they also wanted to make sure they had a box of yummy food. And then Leadership Jones, we prepare meals for the Leadership Jones to sit around a table. And going back to what you just said a few minutes ago, um, there is a part in the curriculum in Leadership Jones where we prepare a table, white
Mhm.
linens, real plates, real utensils, beautiful flowers, and gathering folks around the table.
Mhm.
And it makes a big difference. And you know, with all the fast food that is going on and people eating in their cars and families are missing meals, I believe that's the simple thing
It
that if
is.
we just switch that, I
Yeah.
think we could see some real healing in our communities.
Oh yeah.
Um, Physically, like what you've
Yeah.
explained, emotionally,
Yeah.
I really feel like the family meal would change everything.
It would. We had the opportunity to go to Greece last year, and that was so eye opening to me. It's a Mediterranean diet there, which food is medicine. It is,
Absolutely.
and what you put in your body
Hmm.
is, you know, it's so important for your health. But what we found there, and I loved it so much, was it was food is celebration,
Yep.
food is family,
Yep.
and they don't eat till 8 o'clock at night when the sun is starting to go down, and the sunsets over there last for more than an hour. It's amazing. And it's this big celebration every night. And I was like, wow, this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it. And then, like, we were in this little town square on a, I don't know, Friday night or Thursday night or something. And it was just alive. It was 8 o'clock at night. Came alive. The kids are playing. The food is everywhere. The bakeries are open. Everything is open. And it was like,
Yeah.
and it was the celebration of life, of food. I mean, think about your most
Yeah.
memorable moments in your life. There was probably food involved,
Oh,
and you remember who was at the table.
Yeah.
You remember what was served.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the conversation, and those are the memories that stick in your head. And
Yeah.
food is that path, so
Yeah.
to speak. Food that is cooked with love and skill. That really makes all the difference.
I want to go back to something you said about your diet and how you really needed to make a change.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
how are you feeling these days?
Awesome. I've never felt better in my life.
Yeah. Totally transformed.
It was a slow process, and
Mhm.
I had to really learn and educate myself, and really landed on the Mediterranean diet. And then I saw it
Mm-hmm.
in Greece. There's people are not fat there. They're very healthy. They live to their hundreds.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me. And
Right.
the food is all freshly prepared. It's nothing that's like,
Mhm.
got a 1 year shelf life.
Right.
Nothing like that. No,
Right.
it's all fresh out of the sea.
Mhm.
And just
Lots that we
fantastic.
can be reminded of and learn from here in
Yeah.
the United States.
But it
Yeah.
did start with me being diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. That's
Yeah.
where it all started for me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my mother had cooked very healthy foods. And I didn't really appreciate it then. And then I moved away,
Right.
work, and then you're so busy and you're just,
Start doing our own
and
thing.
you're looking for easier,
Quick fix.
quick fixes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that leads to a not good path for me, especially coupled with all the stress and, drinking from a fire hose every day, I say, and
Yeah. Yeah.
sucking my soul dry after many, many years, almost 40 years.
And I believe that a lot of the folks that are listening to this conversation today, I bet there's some bells that are going off from one thing, or for all the conversations that I have with clients, volunteers, board members, um, parents. This conversation is not a new one. And so I am so grateful to you. You've already described one of the questions I was going to ask you is, what does a healthy community look like? And you've pretty much described that. But what I would love for us to wrap up with today is when you're looking to volunteer, because you shared that you and John, that is one of part of your plan as a couple to give back. What do you look for in an organization when you're committing to volunteer? What's important to you as a volunteer?
As a volunteer, I want an organization that knows what they're doing and they're very clear with their intentions about what their mission is, and allowing me to use the gifts and talents that God has given me to help others. And so I think it was a good fit. And, I hope I'll be here for many years to come and making a difference. It's all about making a difference and
Yeah.
giving back and
Yeah.
making the world better than you found it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had so many conversations,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, you're one of the best friends that I didn't realize that I hadn't met yet.
That's right.
Yep. It was, don't you just love it when you meet somebody and you think, man, feels like we've been best friends
I know.
for a long time.
I know.
So I just can't thank you enough for your time and your talent and your love for our mission. And I thank you for what you bring, your energy, your creativity. And I believe you and John are headed out on some travels, so we won't see you for
Yeah.
a while.
Yep.
But I know you'll have lots of stories to tell when you get back, and I bet you'll come up with some more wonderful recipes.
Absolutely. I'll have lots of time to think about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much, Brenda. We really appreciate you. And
My pleasure.
yeah, have a great rest of your day
Yeah.
and wonderful trips this summer.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.